jumped everything around, and now I'd be doing a slide deck and it would jump like 2 slides.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The only thing I can't figure out, I thought maybe it would operate like a touchpad where I could just touch it and it would click. I have to push down, I guess.
Yeah. I think you might be able to like change the settings somehow with that, but I don't know. I still have to click for it as well.
It's okay. It's a big improvement. I also have the wireless keyboard. I'm not convinced I need it, but this is my laptop's up here in front, and the wireless I
Mhm.
have to do back here. But I'm gonna also set up a stand up station for me to do classes from because I need to stand up part of the day. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's nice if you have like your laptop set up top and then you can have like a little keyboard down below.
yeah, Bob Cohen, one of the other guys, showed me this. I got on Amazon for about $30. It's like an aluminum stand that it expand and go up or down about. I don't know.
Oh,
The back is about 10 inches high, and it's tilted toward the front, which is about 8 inches high. Hi, Regina. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
Good. How's your week?
Very quiet, the way I like it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you like it quiet.
Yes, I love it. I think I'd jump out my skin if there was any noise. I don't know. So, how's your week been?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Oh, wow. I can imagine. I can imagine. You got these 20 classes coming up. So,
Yes, we're starting. Do you know Rick Steves, the travel
yes.
guy?
Do
Well,
you know, Russ? When I saw it, I was I was on it. Okay.
we're kind of gearing up for Rick Steves, so we're doing this a travel series every day for 2 weeks, and then after Rick Steves is done, I'm going to start doing series on travel once, 1 or 2 or 3 times a day on different
Okay.
topics. And see, one of these times we're going to have a thing on traveling solo, and we're going to make sure you join in. You got to be there traveling solo because you have to tell people that you went to Taipei for, was it a month?
Yeah, 30
Well,
days, man, and didn't do anything but eat the whole time.
ah,
That was the purpose. That was my reason for going in the first place.
well,
I got tired of looking at all the food on YouTube. So
yeah, that's pretty good. When I
you
walked in
need,
when I walked in
you know,
Spain for five
Russ.
weeks, I could eat all the food I wanted, didn't have to worry about it.
Okay, all the places you've been, right? You and your
Y-
wife and family and stuff.
yes,
Wouldn't it be great that for each of those places that you've been, you could tell us about it.
I'm going
Show
to.
it to us.
That's exactly what's coming. And tomorrow's the first. Well, I've done about 8, 10 presentations on the Camino de Santiago. Tomorrow, three o'clock Eastern time, is
Okay.
the class on Italy.
Okay. Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
Okay.
Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. It's called A Pilgrimage in Italy, and we're going to talk about walking for a week in Italy, which
All
is very
right.
different than
Okay.
Spain.
Yeah.
Uh, Absolutely beautiful. And I've got 8 more classes lined up with some of my adventures, and then I'm starting to bring people in to share about their adventures. And
Oh,
it's
this is gonna be great.
always focused on senior travelers. So I'm not going to bring in
Yes.
somebody 21 who can climb mountains because why would I?
Exactly.
I'm going to bring in someone 68 who can climb mountains. So
Okay.
um, you I want if you really need to come tomorrow. I hope I see you there, Regina, because
I'll be there. No,
one of the
I will be
slides
there.
is a photo of 2 women, and you can't give this away because I'm going to ask the class, and you're going to have to just not say anything. There, we met 2 German women walk in the opposite direction one afternoon, and we stopped. They spoke English, so we stopped and chatted for a bit. It's impossible for my wife to pass someone without having a conversation. She's just that kind of a person.
Yeah.
And as they say, she's never met a stranger. So we stopped and chatted a bit. And they told us how much the packs weighed that they were carrying, and they were fairly substantial packs. I
Uh-huh.
carried a pack that weighed about 15 or 16 pounds. That's a
Yeah.
light pack. They were carrying packs that weighed more like 24, 25 pounds, which is pretty heavy. And
Yeah.
they were walking 20 to 25K a day, which is like 12 to 15 miles. two women, and we asked their age, or maybe they volunteered their age. The younger one was 76.
Okay.
The older one was 80. And after seeing them, I'm like, anyone can do anything that they put their mind
Exactly.
to. Those
Yeah.
two women so impressed me.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. Okay. I mean, really, whose class did I attend today? Norman's class. It was the ambassador. What's the name of that class? Meet somebody or whatever. Her name was Carolyn, I think. And she was I think the whole class was on change, how seniors are kind of hesitant about change in their lives. And she was telling her story about how she embraced change. And I'm like, wow, you know what I'm saying? There is nothing. One woman spent her whole life working. She was a workaholic. She never did anything other than work. And she fought against change. And she said that when she got sick, it forced her to change because she got sick from being a workaholic. And then all the people that she had in her life were also resistant to change. You should hear her story. She jumped all over that camera and she was like, I have so much waiting for me. I have so much that I've not experienced and I can't wait. And that was so exciting because that is so true. There's so much out there for us. I got this book, Russ, for nothing but seniors who are interested in either sharing their knowledge, their experiences, and they are willing, these companies and organizations and foundations are willing to pay for their travel, their room and board, if they're willing to share. So,
Well, good.
oh yeah, that's right up my alley. I mean, that book is like a fist thick.
That'll get you out of Sturgis.
Oh, yeah. I'm planning that trip to Tokyo in 2023.
You told me.
I already have my folder. I always start a folder for the place that I plan to go to next. So I got my Tokyo folder.
Well, that's great. I'm going to put you on pause for just a second, Regina, because I want to
Okay.
welcome Lily and Kat. Is it Kat? Kat, you're muted. Why don't you say hello?
Hello,
Where are you from, Kat?
California,
Where?
Central Valley, Tracy.
Okay. What was it? Where?
Tracy,
Oh,
the Tracy area, Central
I've heard
Valley.
of it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. So that means you're
you.
about just like 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yes.
whereas we're
That
at 7
is.
here in the East. And Lily,
Oh.
hi, Lily.
Hey, how you doing?
Remind me where you're from, Lily. Are you from New
I'm
York?
from New York, and
Oh, wow.
I'm from New York, and here I am, and I took your class yesterday, if you remember, maybe.
I
Russ.
do remember you. That's why I
And,
thought I'd Lily from New York, Manhattan.
Yeah, correct. And I just want to really thank you for those 6 questions. I mean, obviously they're not, you don't answer them. Well, I don't answer them overnight, but they've really given me some food for thought.
Well, that's
really
great.
great. Yeah, it's really been helpful.
And let's see. I'm trying to figure out where. Okay, I was getting the feedback from Lily, which is I muted you temporarily until you're ready to speak. This is the Publishing Mastermind. I'm Russ Eanes, your Get Set Up guide, and Regina is a regular. I've seen Regina here quite a few times. Kat, you're. I think is this the first time I've had you in a class?
First.
Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, what your interest is in this class.
Well, let's see. I said I'm from California, the Central Valley area, and I'm 66. I've been retired for well over 6 years. I retired kind of early. I do consulting every now and then. I had a 35-year career in human resources and risk management, specializing in local government, every aspect of local government. And but that was my paid career. And then I call my non-paid career was in, dealing with foster children and that abused children and domestic violence and that type of thing. So I gave a lot of my life to that. The reason I am interested in this class is that I write, and I often have roadblocks, and I stop and then I start and I stop and I start. But at some point, I am publishing.
Very good.
And I wanted to really get oriented to that, that world.
Well, this is a good place to start. The people that are here each week are the folks who have an interest in publishing something, and they've been to some of my classes. I do teach 3 other classes, and I'm going to revamp one of them. Regina, I think I'm going to make one of my classes into about 3 classes because there's so much material to cover. And so the folks that have had classes come here and we talk about a few things each week, and they share about what they're writing.
Okay.
And so I do a class called 6 Questions Every Author Should Ask Before They Publish or Think of Publishing a Book. And Lily was in that class yesterday, and Regina's been in it before. I also do a class, How to Self-Publish a Book, which is really very simple. In 45 minutes, I give you everything that you need to understand about what it might mean to self-publish a book. That class also, Regina, I think I'm going to break that up into 2 or 3 sessions so that people can take different parts of that and learn more about how to get an editor and how to talk about designer and purchasing the ISBNs and things, the different platforms you can publish on. And then I do a class. It's a little bit misnamed. It's called Everyone Has a Story to Tell, and about writing memoirs. And really what it is about how to start writing a memoir. And one of my passions, I should say, passion isn't always the right word, but concern doesn't say it either. But one of the things I really care about is that older adults write stories about themselves, about their families, about their parents, grandparents, anything, for those that are coming behind them. And there's no better time to do it than if you've retired, like you have, Kat, and you have the time. What happens though is most people get a block, and so a lot just say, I don't know where to start. And so if Regina remembers this, I gave a little handy saying in that class. I said, don't write the beginning, begin to write. A lot of people are like, I don't know where to start because I haven't got the right beginning. And I say, well, then just write. And someday the beginning will occur to you and you'll stick it in there, and you'll take all those pieces you've written and you'll assemble them together into something you can publish. So that's what we do in that class. And I actually just start with a few real simple writing prompts. And I'm surprised at how people have responded over the last couple of months to that class, because it just gives them a way to start.
That's a different class.
Yes, that's tomorrow at noon. If you want to come to that one,
I will.
And it's
I might be already registered, actually.
Okay. Well, if you are, that's great. Next week, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I should have my one of the other publishing classes next week as well. Probably How to Self-Publish a Book. If you all bear with me for a second, I'll check my calendar real quick for next week. How to Self-Publish a Book is Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that'd be 10 Pacific time. How to Self-Publish a Book.
That's Monday on the 5th.
Let's check here. That's Monday the 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes. So you're welcome to join us. Then I can give you the basic elements of self-publishing a book, why a person would self-publish instead of going with a traditional publisher. Hint, it's very hard to go with a regular publisher. That's why people choose self-publishing, but they offer a lot. So I used to be a book publisher for several decades. That was my previous life. And I now work as I'm now recently employed full time as a guide working with Get Set Up. I love this teaching so much that I'm doing it full time. But I'm also now a freelance writer, also an editor, and I consult with people who have publishing ideas and projects. So I help them figure out what this next step it is that they want to do. And so, just to fill you in a little bit, Regina is working on a memoir about three girls, sorry. Three girls and two A's. Is that right, Regina?
The 2 A's of 3 little black girls.
Okay. The 2 A's of 3 little black girls. And Lily was in my class yesterday. Lily, can you share what it is you're interested in? What it is you're writing? Or are you thinking about publishing?
I'm actually not completely clear on that yet. So could I just hold out and not talk about? Yeah, I'm not clear.
You can sure hold out. Now that you mentioned that, I'm reminded that you said you weren't sure.
Yes.
But is it fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Okay.
I always forget which one's which. Yes.
That's if it's fiction, it's made up.
Right. It's nonfiction. Yes. So yeah, but I don't. It's sorting itself out. But that's why your questions were really helpful.
Kat, were you going to say something? Are you muted? You're still muted, unfortunately. We want to hear you. Huh. So let's see.
Okay, there, I think I am.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, I already started writing, and it is a nonfiction, and it's about, my personal adventures and life experience. And what I realized as I started writing, and I did reach a point where I stopped trying to write the beginning, where I started just writing. And wherever it fits in the end, or at some point, I decided we'll figure that out later. But one of the things that I found that was hard for me is telling your own story. In certain parts, you have to, in my writing style, I dig deep, and it takes me back to moments that maybe I started wondering, is it better for someone else to write those moments? Because some of those moments are pretty emotional and overwhelming. And I can literally, as I write, I found myself literally reliving. Like, I could talk about the scent, I could talk about the sound, I can talk about the air, the weather, very detailed. And in some instances, that's awesome. And then there's other instances that I don't mind going back, but it would take me maybe a while to revisit and go back and get back on track to write. So I even at one point put out because I'm part of a few writing, and book clubs, author, people who are writing. And I thought, well, maybe I should have a ghostwriter. But then I wasn't real confident in the, inquiries I was receiving. So that's kind of where I am. I even have where I started putting photographs together, and decided that maybe the photographs would be where I would start on some of the stories. But there's stories and their adventures, and then some are not so adventurous, but I've found it pretty tough to stay on track at times.
Well, that's interesting. We come to the class tomorrow at noon.
Okay.
And I'll because I show some photos, and I talk about how you can take a photo and spin it into a lot of stories. And if someone were just flipping through and seeing a photo, it would mean almost nothing to them. Okay. I'll show you all in a few minutes something about nonfiction, some things you can learn from. I did work. I do have an acquaintance, a friend who is an author, and she has authored a book that has some deeply personal memoir in it. It's about a journey she took, but then she does a lot of flashbacks to earlier parts of her life. And she took the device of writing about these earlier, more difficult parts of her life in third person. So she goes from, I did this and I did this to the little girl, ... And that was always written in italic. So, which was another way. I wasn't 100% sure in her book that it worked as well, but I've seen it work well. And the reason it didn't work as well for her wasn't that the device of speaking in third person didn't work, but because the way she interjected it into the chapter sometime was a rather abrupt, and I wasn't really sure why I shifted from where I was to suddenly this story. But the fact that she did it worked well, and it worked well to put a difficult and painful story in there, because often when we're confronted with difficult or painful stories, we've kind of blocked them out, or we don't want to get too close to them because they're painful, or we're very emotional about them. And by taking this device of looking at them as in third person at a bit of a distance, allowed her to tell the story. And we knew eventually that she was a little girl. Eventually, this traveler in first person, present, moving, suddenly the little girl from the past in third person, they meet and you understand who they are. So that can be done very well. Well, since all three of you are working on nonfiction, and I've exhausted telling you about classes you can take and get set up about it, I want to show you a few interesting resources tonight. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Kat and Regina know me. Lily and Regina know me from a previous class. But Kat, I am Russ Eanes, your Get Set Up guide. I live in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is in the Shenandoah Valley of Western Virginia. I've been here about 10 years. As I mentioned, I was formerly a book publisher, and love to help authors put their ideas between the cover of a book. That was always my favorite thing, was to hold that author's book up to them after maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years of ideas and bouncing back and forth with editors. I looked up a couple resources that I want to share with you all. So I'm going to share my screen because these are both, I think, pretty useful. One is this site called the Nonfiction Writers Association, and it's Nonfiction Authors Association, pardon me. And I'll send you this URL because it's nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. And I get I think about a bi-weekly newsletter from her. The woman who runs it is named Stephanie Chandler. The newsletter is free to get. And I'm going to show you something down here. If you can see it in the bottom right, free webinar, Law for Writers. I'm not necessarily advocating you take that webinar, but she offers free webinars periodically, and I really get a lot out of them. I've also taken paid classes about all sorts of things about writing. Look at this, there's even a conference coming up, and I'm not, Get Set Up doesn't promote or push anything, so I'm not promoting this conference, but this happens to be someone I know and can trust to tell authors about. They have lots of free information you can get from them. Write a nonfiction book, self-published books, get a traditional book deal, book marketing strategy. I mean, some of this also costs something. You can join the association, and if you join, you can take some of their classes free or at a discount. But they have all sorts of great resources for nonfiction authors, and I really like the stuff that she shows. and I read her newsletter every time it comes. And again, there she is, at Stephanie Chandler. I have taken some of the webinars that she provides, and she sometimes she does a webinar, sometimes she also brings someone in to do one, and I've always gotten something out of them. And I like to tell people I am not a writing teacher, but I love to learn about writing. And so this is where I'm always looking to learn something about writing at a resource like this. She has a blog. She hosts all sorts of events, and she does have a podcast. So, and again, that Nonfiction Writers Conference, they do have a book award thing that you can submit a book to, and then they have a whole bunch of resources here. Recommended resources, 100 best books for writers. A lot of these resources, these links, if you follow them, for example, like this one right here, the 100 best books for authors. A lot of them are right down here, over here on the left, and you can look at them and see if there's something that you might find useful there. On Writing Well is a good book. So this is a site, the Nonfiction Authors Association. And once you sign up, and you can just sign up to get the newsletter, that's all free. And I get one in my email inbox about every 2 weeks. So this is a great resource. I show nonfiction writers. Another great resource, not just for nonfiction writers, for any writers, is Jane Friedman at janefriedman.com. And again, I'll make sure you get these links in your class notes that will come out after the class. And Jane Friedman has been in the publishing industry for about 20 or 25 years. She's kind of like an expert on it. And she also puts out, she has both a paid email, but she also she sends out something called a hot sheet, which I get every week, and that's free. And she also provides classes. I believe that I'm pretty sure all her classes, there's a charge for them, but they're not very much, they're like $19. And so yeah, if you click on this resources for writers, you can get Jane's email newsletters. I really like this little link. I once looked on this, I clicked on this link, Best Books for Writing. And here's a whole bunch of great books down here, including some that are by her. I think I bought this one called The Situation and the Story, which is about writing memoirs, plot and structure. So really, it depends just kind of what kind of detail you want to get into on writing. But she's very good. I really can recommend her. You can sign up to get her newsletter. Here are the online classes she provides. This woman, let's see, Roz Morris is doing this advanced self-editing class. That one's more oriented toward fiction. So I was thinking of taking that class. But coming up in April, Jane is doing the Art and Business of Author platform. So if you are a author who wants to sell books, you need to have a platform, and she does do classes on that. That's one of the things she's really good at. Is this one's more expensive. That's $75. Actually, well, these are longer classes. And how to write a book proposal. Some of these are pretty expensive. After telling you they're $19, most of the classes I take from her are pretty cheap, like $19. And what's nice is at the end of the class, they send you a video of the class and like the notes from the presenter, so you can kind of follow it along later. And I've even signed up for classes and then had a conflict on my schedule and then just gone in and watched it later. So she's very good. She has a blog right here, and you can see all the various things that she blogs about. Anyway, she's a good resource that I can recommend to other writers. She's one of the people that I follow the most. And again, I get a newsletter from her. It comes, I think, every weekend. And I always read through the whole thing because she's got great links and resources and ideas. So those are just a few things to offer all of you. So I'll stop sharing that. I'll get you those links. Any more questions any of you have tonight that might, again, I haven't had you in a class yet, Kat. I'm looking forward to seeing you in other classes that Lily or Regina had based on some of the previous classes we did. Anything more you wanted to ask? Especially you, Lily. You had me yesterday, and I know you were full of questions.
Yeah, I've been thinking about your questions actually. No, I think I'm just sort of in the think mode. You sort of take it all in. I mean, your 6 questions were really very rich. Kat, I would really recommend Ross's. Well, I don't know. It was helpful to me. I shouldn't assume that, but it was very helpful for me. I guess the one thing that I don't know whether it fits into the format of this class, maybe more in the public, can you talk about self-publishing versus a publisher? I mean, I don't know how to think about it, or is it non-thinkable? I know publishers are difficult, but I know nothing beyond that.
Well, I used to be a publisher, so I think highly of publishers.
Oh, no,
However, they are.
Yeah, no, that's the difficult.
Well, no, but we are a very difficult lot. So I can say both things about publishers. They're difficult, and I used to be one. The publishers, I like to think of publishers as the people who grant credibility to writers. So if you're published by a traditional publisher, that means a traditional publisher is willing to take a risk on you, because a traditional publisher will pay everything, all the costs associated with getting your book into print or into ebooks or both. And that's a lot of cost. It's thousands of dollars, especially when you start tacking on advertising and promotion. It runs into the tens of thousands. So that means that a publisher has felt that you're worth the risk. And what my former marketing director, who's has been in the business for 40 years, once said to his mother was asked him how business was going, and he was telling her, and she was asking him, well, can you say more about it? And he said, Mom, listen, he said, the publishing business is like gambling. You take risks, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And so from the point of view of a publisher, it's risky. The problem for them is that it is in the last 20 years, it has become riskier. The rewards are smaller and the risks are still there. And so I think highly of publishers, but because it's become riskier, publishers have become a lot choosier, as they have also had fewer resources. So where a publishing company might have had 20 people before, maybe they have 10. Where they had 10, maybe they have 5. And a lot of the people that they don't have anymore were people who did things like reading author manuscripts, trying to decide if they were worth publishing or not, or looking for authors on or subjects that they wanted to publish on. And so where it used to be difficult, the difficulty was getting your book accepted by a publisher. You would write a proposal and you might send it out to 5 or 10 or 20 publishers and see which one accepts you. Nowadays, a lot of publishers won't even talk to you anymore if your work is not being brought to them by an agent. And who are the agents? The agents are all the people that used to work for those publishers. It's kind of a dirty secret. I shouldn't even call it a dirty secret. It's just obvious. The people that used to be the editors and work in all those departments. And so what's happened is the publishers are now relying on all those former editors to tell them what's worth publishing or not. And so now the new dilemma for a lot of authors is trying to find an agent that will work with them. And I have a friend. I published a book for her when I worked at Herald Press, and then she had done another book before that somewhere else. And she's working on a third book, and she can't get it accepted she's a good writer, by the way. She can't get accepted by an agent. And so now the challenges have kind of been pushed a little bit farther away from the publisher. However, if you can get accepted by a publisher and published by them, that's great. I really recommend that. So the risks have become greater, the rewards have become smaller for publishers, and their staff has become smaller. At the same time, there's a booming self-publishing industry, and I am now a self-published author, having been a publisher. I'm now self-published. I have my own little imprint. It's called the Walker Press. It's my book, one book. I am working on more books, so they'll all be published under the Walker Press. But because there's nearly 1 point, well, let's see, in 2018, there were 1.7 million self-published books in the US. That means that it's very easy to do because a lot of people did it. It also means that there's a lot of books out there. And so your question, that's why I asked that question about author platform. How will people know that your book is there when there's so many books there trying to get their attention? And so self-publishing is easier in many ways. And if you come to my class on how to self-publish a book, I'll talk about some of the advantages of self-publishing. You don't have to worry about what the publisher thinks or not, because you are the publisher. If you like that in that chapter, it stays in that chapter. If you want the cover to look that way and the title to just say that, you get to choose it instead of the publisher telling you. But all the cost is yours, and all the risks are yours, and all the work is yours. Which might sound daunting, except that you've already written the book. So that was a lot of work. And factually speaking, most publishers these days want you to do a lot of work. They don't want you just to write the book and say, here, take this. Now you do all the rest. They say, we want you to have an author platform, and we want you to write blog posts, and we want you to make appearances maybe. So the publisher is asking writers to do more work. So, if you have to do all that because you're self-published it, it's not like you're doing that much more work, and the rewards are greater. I particularly enjoy talking to people. I get feedback from readers about my book, and I love it. I get much more of that because I'm self-published than I would through a traditional publisher. So it's the costs in a nutshell to do a good self-published book, which you are hoping to sell, are between $1,200 and $2,000. If you just want to write a short memoir of some experience, a trip you went on, or your childhood, or an interesting person, and you really aren't that interested in making money off of it, you can publish it from anywhere from $200 to $600, and you're good. And I have people that have done all those kinds of things. So the costs are more associated with the quality and the professional levels with it. So in a self-published book, the biggest expense is hiring an editor, and that's the biggest benefit. And then after that, then it is a designer who can lay out the words inside the book, the interior design and the photographs, and create a nice appealing cover. Those are the two biggest expenses in self-publishing, and that's where I used a professional to do both for me. I actually did the interior design of my own book because it happened to be a lover of book design, and so I wanted to try my hand at it, and I had a lot of fun with it. So you happen to be in the center of the book publishing world in the U.S., Lily, in Manhattan. So you maybe have bumped into somebody in the book industry. Did that help with some of your questions, Lily?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, yes. This is sort of, there are lots of people, and this is a relatively new interest of mine. I have friends who are writers, but I'd rather, I don't know. I like to sort of hear, I don't know, more neutral information, because everyone has their personal experience, if you know what I mean. Some people love their agent, some people hated their agent, whatever. I actually dated one of my friend's agents, but that's a whole different story.
Okay.
So I don't know. So as I said, I am new to this entirely. And so when one publishes a book, is it, okay, you said something about you had a company, something, Herald Press. Is that, I forget.
I used to be the publisher at Herald Press. Yes. I was a publisher for the Mennonite Church.
Oh,
yes.
No, but you said you created a something press for yourself.
Oh, yes. I have the Walker Press.
Walker Press. Correct.
Yep.
So I guess, yeah, looking from a business point of view, is it appropriate to create a business entity to house whatever one writes, so that one protects oneself from any potential liability? You put a corporate wall, a corporate, whatever you want to call it.
Right. I am not incorporated. I'm not an LLC. The only book I have is mine. My book, however, is copyrighted. I registered the copyright with the U.S. Copyright Agency. I will mention that if you say something you've written is copyrighted, it is copyrighted. Declaring it copyrighted is actually all you have to do. However, if you believe there's some risk to what you have published being plagiarized or stolen by someone or pirated, and the risk is there, your chances of winning something in a court are better if you have registered the copyright with the U.S. Copyright Agency. I went ahead and did that. My book sold quite a few copies and is fairly well known in its small genre. And I thought that it would just be a wise thing to register the copyright. It only costs $65. I also purchased my own ISBNs. So the Walker Press has 10 ISBNs, and so I tend to use them for all my own books. Again, those are all levels of professionalism that I think are important, that I can be recognized by people that are in the industry. The self-publishing industry can be looked down upon because publishers think, well, if everyone can do it, it must be pretty easy. It must not be that much value in it. So the more professional a self-published book is, or the author takes in being professional, the more likely it is recognized.
Okay, thank you. Are you finished? May I follow up on that?
Please.
Yes. So, okay, so that was helpful, very helpful in terms of, I guess, copyright as a form of protection of the material. However, we whatever, you never know what the future brings. For example, so in business, you have either an LLC or corporation because you want to create a shield between your business and your personal life. You want to create you want to, whatever you want to create a separation so that one doesn't blend into the other. And the primary, or one primary purpose, is actually to protect assets so things are segregated. So I don't know, in publishing, do people create LLCs or what another, or is that like the press where if there's any kind of lawsuit or legal liability due to something that was put in a book, the liability falls within the entity that holds the book?
Yeah, it can be. I think it's going to depend on the nature of what you've written and what you've published, how much risk there is. So for my book, the risk of any of that is extremely minimal. And so I don't have an LLC. If I were publishing other people as well, besides myself, and I felt there was some risk associated with it, I could create an LLC. But for me, it's not worth it. Right now, the only person whose books are published under the Walker Press are mine. So if anybody's in trouble, it's me.
Right. Okay. But it has been done, or people do it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any more questions from anyone?
I don't have a question, but I would like to address Kat.
Go ahead.
Hello, Kat girl. Okay, look, woman. Let me say this. When we have such pain when we're writing the depths of our hearts, okay, when we're putting the depths of our hearts on paper, and we experience that pain from that time. In my writing, in my memoir, there's a lot of trauma.
Okay.
A whole lot of trauma. And I experienced that as I'm putting it down. I'm writing it and crying at the same time. Okay? But my son told me something. He said, Mama, he said, I'm gonna tell you, he said, you kept that in you a lot of years. You've been wearing that with you a lot of years. The same thing you've been wearing for a lot of years. You need to take it out and put it on paper. And then you need to show, after you posted all that trauma, after all of that's on that paper, then you're going to put how you got over all that trauma. Then you're going to put down there what brought you through, what carried you to how you got here today. You're here today with the willingness of wanting to to release it, to let it go. And he said, well, you know what? You may not just be doing that. Think of it like, for those of us who've been through that, we're not alone. And we may just help somebody else that's going through or have been through and don't know how to let it go. Okay, I had talked to Russ about those that have just couldn't deal with it. All right, and they had to take the exit route. Okay, you and I are still here. We're here. We are here. How did we get here? Over that trauma. Okay.
I can appreciate that. And you hit the nail on the head. I have actually experienced exactly what you're describing. I've really kind of pushed through that because, I mean, when you get to a certain point in life, you receive whatever life was that God gave you, that God called you to be, and you find the value there. That's for me. I can only speak for myself. I think my biggest challenge today is making sure that when I'm telling my story, that I'm aware of crossing over into someone else's part of that story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because family members and people in your life when you're writing about life, it's not always about just you. You're telling a story, exactly. and a good story has a whole host of characters and personalities and they come with life experiences and that kind of thing. And when I tell my story, I'm explaining maybe and describing those individuals so that my audience can understand their role in the story I'm telling or that experience. But I have a very I tippy-toe with making sure I'm not crossing into someone else's story. And when I tell my story, I am telling a story about someone's mother or someone's child who maybe I care how they react to it too much. Because it is my story after all. So I'm dealing with that, and I appreciate your insight.
Oh, I like the way you put that, Kat.
Yeah,
I like
and
the way you say my story.
Oh, it's my story, and it's an amazing story.
I love it. I love that.
Actually, it's a beautiful story. The entire story. I think at 66, I've really passed those points. I want to just say real quick, Oprah, this gave me a very much insight. Oprah did a movie on, what was her name? Henrietta Lacks. Remember that? And Oprah was playing Henrietta. And as she was writing her story, she started having emotional breakdowns. Yeah. And so she hired somebody to write the story with her. And when I saw that movie and I saw it from that perspective, I said, that's what I'm going through. But that was a few years ago. I really passed that. But it still and it's not all pain. And it's not all just, about my private life. There's a lot of intersections because I've had such an amazing journey. There's some of it is career and that overlaps into, it's amazing. I'm excited about it. but I appreciate you connecting with me on that level on those issues because it's a good validation.
All right.
And yes, and my view on everything I write and everything I'm doing is one, it's to validate the special journey that I feel I was created
All right now.
for, and that
Okay.
I'm certain I was created for, and I'm the only one that could have lived it, and to share it with those who either like you have this something in common, or those who
Uh-huh.
are stuck and hopeless, to show
Yes.
the magical part and the faith and the,
There we go.
you know, and the
There
power
it is.
and the beautiful part of maybe some things that are painful. There's always,
Uh-huh.
you know, so I'm there. I wanted to learn about the publishing part because in some of the, I'm in a number of writing groups through Facebook in particular.
Yeah,
And
Russ got some of those.
yeah, and they talk a lot about self-publishing.
Okay.
And I don't have a clue what they're talking about. Russ, you've already enlightened me. And because when you were talking about it, I kept going, oh, okay, that's what they meant. And when Lily mentioned the liability part, you know, the exposure and the LLC, that's enlightening and informing. I have a better understanding that right at this point, none of that applies to me, but I wondered about it. And so that's been addressed already. So I'm already gained in this class. I can't wait to get the 6
Russ gonna
questions.
mess around and have a #1 bestseller author in his class.
Well, I really appreciate the way you two share with each other tonight. This is great. This is why this class is for, and you can help each other. And I'm really glad to hear that. So I'm touched to hear what you both have shared with each other. You know, writing personal memoirs and how that affects family is probably the most
Yes.
difficult point for memoir writers, especially if they're writing about their personal life.
Oh, yeah.
To deal with. Even my memoir, which is really, it includes stuff about my personal life, has a few things about my growing up, and I had nothing. It's not about that. So there didn't have to be any major mentions, but I had to just think to myself, how do I talk about my 2 brothers? Because
yes,
respect and care for them. But I want to say, what would they see when they read this? They'll laugh is what they're going to see, what they're going to do when they leave it. But that is, for people who are writing difficult memoirs, that is the #1 thing. And I can't remember which of those groups I showed, which of those sites, whether it was Jane Friedman or the Stephanie Chandler, but there was a class that one of them was offering. It was like a 4-hour webinar, and it was all on that topic, how to deal with the difficulties of writing about your mother, your sister, your father, somebody personal, sibling,
my children,
your children. And I didn't take it because I don't write those kind of memoirs myself, but I noted that that's an issue. So that's great. We're getting down to our time, and I'm really glad that we've had a great hour here together. I wanted to do one last little thing while we're all together, because I was going to show hopefully I get in the right place here to show you some things about Get Set Up, some of the classes. And let's see. So yeah, this is the class I'm doing tomorrow, Regina, A Pilgrimage in Italy, the Way of St. Francis.
I saw that.
Yes, I'll be there.
Tomorrow, 3:00, come and join me. My wife and I walked 8 days through the Umbrian Mountains. Had a fabulous experience. I walked 500 miles on the Camino de Santiago in 2018. And this was kind of a follow-up for the 2 of us to do something together. If you're at the homepage of Get Set Up, if you know a class that you want to do, of course, here's Gmail, useful things you may not know, taught by Wade. Okay, here's Donna getting started with Zoom for beginners. If you could just go to all classes and then you scroll through, we're looking here look at the classes that are still available tonight. I have to show everyone this one. You can do Australian wildlife at 10 p.m. tonight because I think the person who's teaching it is in Australia. Anyway, we say we're heading toward having 24-hour a day programming. Here's this class tomorrow, Kat.
Yeah, I'm
and Lily.
registered.
Everyone has a story to tell. If you do get into the class, you can click on this thing about the guide, and then you go down here, other classes I teach. So here are the classes that are available that I do. If the class isn't, here's how to self-publish a book on Monday. If the class isn't listed here, it's simply because it's not on the schedule right now. We only schedule out about a week or 10 days. And the other way you can find something, so if we had that class called 6 Questions,
Is that what it's called?
that's one of the other classes. So there's how to self-publish a book. The one that Lily was talking about. Let's see. Look at that. When I go search, it says learn anything. Isn't that interesting? Let's see. What is this over here? Classes this week coming soon. Maybe we'll find it here. Usually you can find classes that aren't on the schedule yet. If you click
Yeah,
on.
I want to. I'm very interested in the 6 questions.
So what you do is if you find it, that just means it's probably week after next. See where it says join waitlist? Just
Yeah.
click on join waitlist.
Okay.
And I used to teach all those classes every week, and they started getting a little bit smaller. So now we're just doing them every other week and alternating
Okay.
them. So just click on the join the waitlist, and there's generally not a long wait unless it's a class there isn't enough interest. But the classes
Yeah.
that we've been doing regularly, here you go, biking Pittsburgh to Washington D.C. That's one of my classes, so it is on the schedule yet, but you can see this is coming up here. So I just want to show you all that.
Thank you.
And you'll be notified. We are working on some improvements to the website and to the member experience so that you'll be able to see that you're on a wait list for that, who's going to teach it, and then be notified about a new class or an upcoming class. And as I develop classes and tell people about them, you can go in and get on the wait list, or I will make sure that certain learners get notified when they're in that class, that class is coming up. So.
Yeah, one functionality that would be really helpful would be to be able to follow instructors.
Yeah, that's coming. So what'll happen is you would click on that instructor, and then you would say, follow Russ. That's coming. Yeah, we are actually
Right.
working on that. So then you'll hear automatically about my new class.
Right, rather than, because searching, yeah.
And I'm going to be doing these travel series, 5 different classes a week, 5 evenings or 5 afternoons or evenings a week, and they'll be different every week. Some of them I'll cycle through, do them again over in a succeeding months. But that way you'll find out everything that I'm doing that's coming up, and you can put one of those, you sign up for it and get on the calendar.
Right, that would be great. Yeah, so you guys have already talked about that. Yeah. Is that
Well, you've been a great group. I really enjoyed hearing from you, and I enjoyed the things you shared with each other and your questions, and keep coming back to this class or to other publishing classes and anything you want to take on Get Set Up, because like I tell you, can learn everything from how to put apps on your smartphone to how to choose the right wine for supper. So, and everything in between. And
there's even a soap making class.
A soap making
Here's
class.
Yeah.
There's a soap making class.
My wife,
I've got about 4 sessions tomorrow.
There you go. I am big on seniors learning. This is all about learning as long as you live. And then also you can become an ambassador. I think maybe Regina's work in that direction. And then you can lead interest groups or social groups. We have people that are very involved in the community that way. And that's something that you can get involved in. So anyway, I want to wish you all a good night.
Thank
can I
you.
ask a quick question? Is there any expectation that things will slow down in the summer, or there's no expectation of that?
We don't know.
Oh, okay.
Funny you should ask. We talk about that every day.
Oh,
Good
okay.
night, Kat.
Good night, Regina.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
Billy. Good night, Russ. I will see you in class tomorrow.
I hope
Okay.
to
I'll
see
show
you
my face
again.
tomorrow. I got a zit on my bald head, Russ. I couldn't be showing my face tonight.
Okay.
All right. Regina, have a good evening.
Good
The
night.
answer, Lily, to your
Okay.
question is we do expect things to slow down a little bit, but we don't know. But we're going to keep going. We're coming up with brand new.
My hair
ideas.
look like Russ, but Russ
Yeah,
got
well,
hair.
well,
don't
if
have
anyone's
none.
asking the viewership, I would hope it doesn't slow down much.
Well, we continue to expand and get new members. So share it with other people because it's all free.
Well,
It's
it's not
great.
only, it's free, that's nice, but it's also intelligent. I mean, the guides
It
like
is.
yourself, it's not, yet so many things that are free talk down. I mean, so many things are free.
Yeah,
You know, it's sort of like, it's so elementary, it's almost insulting. But
Right,
Cat
right.
Set Up is really unusual in that it really is, it's not only, it's an intelligent discussion. Look what we just had right here. It's an intelligent discussion. Do you know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
I appreciate that, Lily. I really do. And you know, what we like to say is that we are peer to peer. So
Yeah.
we're learning, we're
Right.
teaching and learning from each other. And I thank you for that compliment. I will pass that along to the other guides.
Yeah, it's really true. Kat, you would agree, right? A lot of things that are free, you feel like, oh my God, you know. Really
Yeah.
gonna-
Well,
gonna hit
that I
this
was
again?
very skeptical. I was very skeptical.
Yes.
And then I started going through the sessions. And what I found, especially like I said, today is my 4th session. And
Yes.
I could have been more, but I just thought, okay, Kathy, slow down.
Right.
But it's because a lot of the topics relate to what I'm already working on. It fills in all the details and the questions.
Yeah.
And they are a higher level of intellect, which, you know,
It's at a level that was applicable, not sort of like
right, right.
B comes after A and C comes after B. Yeah, we got that part.
No. Or like there's the commercials. There's some funny commercials about being older, and no, this is a much higher functioning,
Right.
intelligence, right?
Correct. Stimulating as
So-
opposed
and
to
I feel like it's a professional level where,
Yes.
where I used to, when I was actually in the work, environment, which I still do consulting every now and then. It's at that level and I'm comfortable with it. So like I said, I've signed, but the good part is it's not in my profession or my subject matter expertise. It's in this other journey I'm on that I love so well, but
Right.
it's intellectual and it's stimulating.
yes. And the material is organized, it's concise.
Yeah. Right.
It's not, 1 hour to discuss one concept or, one.
A button on your computer.
Right. It's sort of like, let's discuss the on button for 60
Yeah.
minutes. Right.
Thank you,
I'm gonna
Russ.
make some coffee. Anyway, Russ, we don't need to, I don't know if this is interesting.
Well,
to
I appreciate all your compliments. I'm going to pass these along. This is why we all of us who are guides do this. So thank you.
the
Thank
quality-
you very much.
quality
I've
of the
enjoyed
teaching
it.
are
Okay. Have a
really
good
I'll
night.
see you tomorrow.
See you
Okay,
tomorrow.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Lily.